This is what we are basically going to go through, okay, right? In these set of videos, we're going to go about something called control statements in general. So, if can anybody tell me right here, right, what sort of a process flow is, like any of the new students, right, who have just joined it? What do you think a flow of a process is in general, right? When I say like I'm going to school, what would be the flow of the process there? What?
Like there are certain
Doing
steps.
some series programming and using
Mm-hmm. I can't hear you. I'm just sorry. Maybe I'll just increase my volume. Right. Can you repeat what you said?
Like there are certain steps we need to follow.
Perfect. Yeah. There are certain steps that we always follow, right, to solve problems generally in life. So suppose I'm going to school or something, I would wake up, get ready, and put on my uniform and go to school, right? So these are like every process in general, right? They have to be described in a flow. So can you just describe me some other process in a flow wise? Any one of you, any other process? Just describe like the basic examples there. Anyone, it's fine if you're wrong. It's fine if it's any random process. Like, just start out, and maybe we can all work together and find out what exactly an example of a process flow is.
So is it only the new people or like everyone?
Anyone, new people or the people who attended yesterday. Just give me an example of another process. Let's say, okay, you're making omelets, okay, at home. What would be the process flow there?
Like get the pan and wash
Mhm.
it and turn on the gas and like put oil and everything.
Right. So, see, when you're saying that you're going to get the pan, put the oil, and put the omelette, and then cook the dish, right? So, do you think that this process should be sequential? Can I actually just put the pan and then heat it, then remove the pan, and then break the egg and eat it? Right? It doesn't make sense. There has to be a sequence, right? You have to put the pan on the stove, heat it, and then put the egg to make an omelette, right? You can't cook omelette on a cold pan, right? So this is what we call a sequential process. There has to be an order of things that are happening, right, from step one to the last step. Now, sometimes, right, let's say you didn't have chili powder, or sometimes, right, the recipe doesn't state that you have to put mushrooms. But let's say Achintya, he likes mushrooms, right? He's a big fan of mushrooms, and he wants to add mushrooms in his omelet. So what will he do? So if Achintya has mushrooms at his house, he will put mushrooms in his omelet. So there, right, I'm adding a new step. Like I'm adding a control there, right? If Achintya has mushrooms. So what would Achintya do if he does not have mushrooms? What would he do?
He would go out and buy.
Yeah, so there can be many possibilities after that. He can either go out and buy it, or he may not add it itself, right? So it is not just sequential, but there are also control statements there, like if this happens, do that. If this is not possible, do this, and things like that, right? So that is where we convert a sequential program into a branching program, right? By using if statements and things like that. And let's say, right, when you're cooking, you have to keep flipping the omelette, right? So all sides get cooked properly, and you have to keep flipping the omelette till all the sides get cooked properly. So there is a process of repetition here, right, guys? So you're just going to flip it once like this, then the other time like that, right? And you're going to keep repeating until it gets cooked. So this is a looping process or an iterative process that's also involved. So that is how you can relate whatever programming concepts you have into a real world example. So a sequential flow is going from like the first to the last in a sequence. And again, just to mimic more real world examples, we add a component of control statements, branching statements, and iterative statements, and things like that. So basically, what we covered yesterday were statements like the if statement. Does anybody know what an if statement is? Any of the new joinings today? Okay, it's fine if you're wrong, right? Because I'm sure that I would be wrong, like telling these things. If like I'm just asking you to guess anything. Where would you need an if statement? What is the use of it? Give me a real world example.
So if like x is equal to 2, then it's an even number.
Perfect. That's if x when it's divided with two, it leaves a remainder of zero. That means it's an even number. That's a beautiful example, right? Any other example? Give me a real world example, like where you can tell, like if we have a cricket bat, then we can play cricket. Something like that. If we don't have a cricket bat, we can't play cricket, right? Because that's quite essential to playing cricket. Anything like that. Anybody else? Come on, guys, just give it a guess. Anything, like, it can be anything random. Like, give me anything from your real world that you can use an if condition.
So it can be like if we don't have an umbrella, then we can't go out in a
Then it's
rainy day.
raining. Perfect. See, those are the use of if statements, right? So, right, what is now? Let's try looking at the programming part. So, if statement. An if statement is used to execute a block of code if the given condition evaluates to true. So, I want you guys to look at the syntax, right? So, there is an if keyword, and there's a circular bracket. There's a condition specified, and there is a block of statements. So now, what should this condition, right? I'm telling if a certain condition is true, evaluate the block of code. So what should this condition return to me as an answer? It should either return two values. What can those values be? So if it's a rainy day, if I ask that question, what two answers or the possible answers to that question? Is it raining? When I ask you, is it raining? What two answers can you give me?
Yes or no?
Perfect, perfect. See, it's either yes or no or true or false, right? It's either raining or it's not raining. So whenever you guys write an if condition, so if statement, the condition specified in it should evaluate to a yes or no answer. So I think somebody gave a very good example now. If a number when it's divided by two, if it leaves a remainder of zero, it's a even number. So when I say if a number when a number x, if it is divided by 2, does it leave a remainder 0? So for that question, there are only two answers, yes or no, right? So that is when you use if statements. We will look further at these statements when we are programming, but just for the paucity of time, right? So that we can move to other concepts. I'm just stating this much. But any doubts you guys have where we would use an if statement?
No,
No,
no.
sir.
No, sir.
No, sir.
Yeah, perfect, perfect, perfect. So now we go to the second statement, else statement, right? An else statement is used to execute a block of code when the if condition evaluates to false. So it can only be used in conjugation with an if statement. So I've just read it out from the slide itself. But what do you think when I say why should an else statement only be used with an if statement? Like let me give you an example. Like I'll just go to someone, I'll be like, bro, else we can't pass the exam. So what should precede that? When I say else we can't pass the exam, give me a sentence that precedes that sentence to make it sensible.
So again, is it like the new students or the anyone?
Okay, the new student just give it an attempt. If we're not able to get an answer, like let's keep a rule of thumb like 20 seconds, and then the old students can pitch it, right? And
So can you repeat the
Mhm.
question?
So I come to you, Achintya, and ask you, bro, dash. I say you a sentence before that, and I say else we can't pass the exam, right? So what do you think the first sentence would be there?
So it would be that we'd either pass or else we'd fail.
So let me rephrase that. I come and tell you, bro, we should study hard, or else we can't pass the exam, right? So
Yeah.
you see the use case of else there. See, the else
Yeah.
itself is not specifying the condition. The else is just saying what happens if the condition is not true. See, if we don't study for the exam, we will not do well, right? So that
Yeah.
is where the else statement used. So else itself does not have a condition. So else should always come after something that specifies a condition. So whenever we use an else statement in programming, right, it always comes in conjugation or together with an if statement. So you see here, right? I think my cursor is also visible. Pointer, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So right, we see the if statement here, right? Oh, sorry with that. Yeah, we see the if statement, right? When in programming, always if statement specifies the condition, not the else statement. So if condition. So if this condition evaluates to true, let's say if the condition is I study hard, right? Then the block of statements will be I will score well in the exam, right? Now, if I don't study hard, what will happen? Which statement will execute?
The else one.
Perfect.
Else
Yeah.
one.
Perfect. Perfect. That's a great understanding, guys. So if condition evaluates to false, then the else set of statements will execute. Now let me just ask you a question, right? If x mod 2 is equal to 0, right, and the value of x is 2, right, which statement will execute?
The first one.
So
If
if first one, if
Perfect. Perfect. Beautiful, guys. Now if value of x is 5,
then the else.
Perfect. So that is the understanding, guys. Why does the if x mod by 2 equal 0 evaluate the if statement first? Because 2 mod by 2 will give 0 and it's a true value. So then it will evaluate the if condition, right? Or else it'll evaluate the false condition, which is for else statement, right? So always remember, guys, this is the rule of thumb that I want to take you guys to take away from this. An else statement can never be used by itself. An else statement must always come with an if statement, right? So that is the rule of thumb. Any doubts with the else statement, guys?
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
No,
Perfect,
bro.
perfect. Yeah, okay. Actually, call me bro, guys. It makes even me awkward when you guys call me sir, right? So yeah, the third style of statements, right? If else if ladder. See, sometimes, okay, let me say you guys like have multiple choices to make, right? Let's say like I'm in charge of assigning. I'm sorry, is the sound in the background disturbing you guys?
No.
No, bro.
Okay, you can't hear it, right?
No.
Okay, because they're selling something, I think some street vendor, and it's very noisy right here. Okay, so if it's not disturbing you guys, I'll just continue. So when will an if else if ladder use or be used? So when I don't if and else statements, right? How many conditions they can execute for? They can how many blocks of code can I execute with an if else statement? How many blocks of codes do you guys see here?
So one,
One and see one block of code I have for the if condition.
so
Then
We
there
there's
have
is
one
total.
if and one else.
perfect. So it's a total of two, right? But in general, right, in life, is everything a binary decision? Like, do we always have only yes or no for a certain question? No, we have multiple possibilities, right? So I'll give you an example. Let's say, like in your in school, right? In your report cards, you guys get grades, right? A, B, C, E, and so on and so forth. So,
Yeah.
like, there might be a condition, right? If Achintya gets above 90, he gets an A grade. Else, if he gets above 80, he gets a B grade. Else, if he gets above 70, he gets a C grade. So, right there, you see, right? It's not just yes or no, but there's a ladder right there from 90 to 80 to 70 to 60. It goes on and so forth. So, that time you need something like a if else if ladder. So, what is the syntax for it? Let's just look at it. So, first, as usual, okay, it always starts with the if condition. You guys should remember that. You can even never start with the else if. It should always start only with the if condition, right? So if the first condition will be Achintya gets above 90, right? The block of statement will be print Achintya got A grade. Then else if condition, the condition here will be Achintya got above 80. Then we print Achintya got B grade. Then else, then we'll say Achintya got C grade, right? In our school, we only have A, B, C grades, right? We are a good school, like we don't have failed grades and all that stuff. We only A, B, C, right? We were there. So yeah, so that is where if else if ladder you can use, right, when you have a multiple set of decisions to make. Now let us just look at the formal definition of it. It is used to execute one block of code when there are many possible conditions. See, we have many possible conditions here, and we just want to execute one of those blocks of code, right? It is also referred to as a multi-path decision statement. Can anybody tell me why it could be called a multi-path decision statement?
Because there are multiple answers to the question asked.
Yeah, because see, in our school also there are multiple grades. There are not just two grades. There are multiple grades. A, B, C, D. I mean, in other schools there are E, F, and so on and so forth, right? So there are multiple paths that the program execution can go into, but we only need it to execute one of those paths, right? So to pick one of those paths, we can use a if else if ladder, right? So that is where we use an if else if ladder. Any doubts, guys, so far in the usage of if else if ladder?
No.
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 Perfect, perfect, perfect. And guys, never say no to like a doubt because doubts are more important than understanding, right? I would say like people who have more doubts end up understanding way more than people who think they've understood it the first time around, right? And having doubts is actually a sign of attentiveness and intelligence rather than understanding at the first time, right? And I think that is a bad concept that we have been taught in school and otherwise. If somebody's asking a doubt in class, we're like, oh, how can you not understand this simple thing? But I can tell you from personal experience, the guys who usually have doubts, right? They understand it on a much deeper level than the other guys do, right? So yeah, and if you have doubts, always feel free, open to ask, and don't think anybody will judge, right? Because there are so many examples in classes where I didn't understand a thing and I wouldn't ask it out, not because I didn't I didn't understand clearly on anything, but just because I didn't understand anything at all to ask it out, right? So that's the case, right? So let's move to the next one. Mm, okay, nested if we will see today in a later class. I mean, at a later time. Go on. Okay, even switch statements we are going to do it in today's class. So I'll just reiterate what we studied yesterday, right? Okay, now guys, what can iterative statements mean? Like iterative. What do you guys understand by hello guys? Am I audible?
Yeah,
Hello.
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, cool. Am I audible? Like, what do you guys think iterative is? Like, or looping? What do you think a loop is?
So the
Like
continuous, it's repetitive.
Repetition. That's a beautiful word to describe it. Repetition, right? That's a very precise word to describe it. Repetition. It's like whenever you're repeating something or process for a certain reason, right? It's called looping over the process. So I'll just have some examples here, right? Over a process. So when do we need to repeat a process, right? Let's say I'm studying for an exam. Why would I need to repeat a process there? What would why can you guys just guess why would I need to study something that I've studied again?
To understand it better.
Perfect. See that's a very perfect suggestion, right? To understand things better, right? So that's the end goal. As like until my understanding is at a very high level, I have to study it over and over and over again. Right? So that is where a iterative process can be used. First time I study, maybe I understand 50% of the subject, then 60%, then 70%, and so on and so forth. Right? So that is called a looping process. So let's see here these live examples, and I'll just ask you guys what is the iterative process in these examples, and what may be their end goal, right? So here, right, this guy, this woodcutter is trying to cut the tree. So what is the iterative process there?
So this
Like
can
swinging the
at the
axe.
same place.
Swinging the axe. Perfect, perfect. Swinging the axe is the iterative process. And what is the end goal?
Chopping the branch.
Until the branch has been chopped, he has to repeat the process. So the end goal there is chopping the branch. Okay, now let's take this guy, right? He's walking to his friend's house. This old man, right? In the evening, he's going on a walk to his friend's house. So what is the iterative step in his walk?
Movement of his leg.
Yeah, he's taking one step after the other, one step after the other, one step after the other. What is
and
the
his
end goal?
daily and his daily like routine to in the evening for a walk. That's repetitive.
Yeah, every evening he goes for a walk. That might also be repetitive, right? And what do you think his end goal? He's trying to get to his friend's house. When do you think he should stop walking?
When he reaches his friend's house.
Perfect, perfect. That's it. So every iterative statement has a quality of an iterative process in it and an end goal. So when the end goal is reached, you stop doing the iterative process. So it makes no sense for this woodcutter, right, to chop the tree after it has been chopped, right? It even doesn't make sense when I'm saying that because it's very illogical. And even for him, right, he's trying to reach his friend's house. It doesn't make sense for him to continue walking after he reaches his friend's house. His friend probably thinks this guy's crazy, right? So those are iterative statements. And the first iterative statement we studied yesterday was the while statement, right? So what is a while do? While and condition and a block of code. So this is the keyword, right? A while. So when the condition evaluates to true, so the block of code will execute. Can anybody give me an example while and tell me a sentence after that and tell me the block of statements? I'll give you an example. While I have not understood this subject properly, I will continue studying. So something like that. Can you guys give me an example?
Like while I have not finished writing completely, so I'll continue writing.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Right. Anybody else? Or like while I'm playing, I will give it my best shot. So that is also right. While and a condition and a block of statements to execute. So that is where a while statement would be used, right? So you have a while, a condition, and a block of statements to execute when the condition turns true. So I guys, I just hope you're noting all of this down, right? At least the syntax and stuff like that as I speak. Is anybody noting it down?
I've noted it down from the previous
Okay, right, right.
class.
Anybody else? The new joinees. What about you guys?
No, sir.
No, sir.
We are
Okay, so
noting it.
I'll tell you why, right? Oh, great that somebody's noting it. I'll tell you why, right? See, there are so many meeting times, right? You think that you've understood something just when you're listening to it, but when you go back out of the meeting, you have no clue what is being said, right? So even if you maintain notes, maybe like 5 to 6%, just like short, you just scribble it somewhere. So you can just look. So like tomorrow, if I'm just looking this wild statement scribbled on a book, then I'll think, oh, what was this Vaishnav telling me yesterday when he told why? Oh, he told me there's some condition aspect to it. Maybe you're not understanding like 95% to 99%, but at least 50% understanding will have of what happened yesterday. So that is why it's essential that you guys take notes of whatever is happening, like maybe just in a page or something, just scribble it down in whatever way you understand it, because that keeps it in memory for a longer time, right? So if anybody wants to go take a paper and pen and come right now, I'll give you a minute break. When all of you have your papers and stuff, just tell me, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just give you a minute. You done, guys?
I bought
Yes,
my
sir.
book.
Yeah, got it.
Perfect, perfect. So let's go to the next step. Any doubts in the wild statement, right? Guys, this thing, right? I realize I'm going very, very fast today. Maybe I'm not just executing the code also. That's probably because I've done it yesterday. So if you guys want the code bit, go to the previous video and watch it on YouTube, right? Today's concepts we'll code them, so maybe you can understand today's concepts much better, right? For these concepts, I would just like a bit of a revision. So just bear with me and go through the past series we on the code part and just try to build an understanding, basic understanding, because more than that won't be necessary because this sort of understanding develops over time, right? So while statement, any doubts, guys, in while statement?
Oh,
No, bro.
Yes.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, now do while. Okay, so what I just want to read this definition, and it says it is an exit control loop. What could that mean? A while statement is an entry control loop. Entry control and exit control. What do you think? Why is a while statement called an entry control loop? Any of the new joiners?
So if the condition is true, then only it will go to the block of code.
Perfect,
If it's
perfect.
not true,
That's
then it
that's
will.
the right answer. That's the right answer. Because see, when the condition evaluates to true, then the block of code executes. If the condition evaluates to false at first at the start, it doesn't execute the block of code. So can the same person tell me why this is called an exit control?
So it is because first do is written and the code is given, so the code is executed, and then it checks the condition is true. If it's true, it will continue. If not,
Perfect,
then it will.
perfect, perfect. See, that is a good answer, right? So this the difference is while, right, checks the condition first and then executes a block of code. Now do while executes a block of code at least once and then checks the condition. So right here, right? Let's say while this statement is false. Now I'll say while false. Do you think this block of code will execute?
no.
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 So the total number of executions will be zero. Now, if I put do and in this condition I give in the do while loop I put the while condition as false, right? So what? How many times will it execute?
It'll execute at least once because it's an exit control.
Perfect. So just for anybody who's like not I mean I know it's very fast and I wouldn't expect everybody to get it the first time. Just let's look at the code, right? I'm not sure if you guys can see the screen. I mean,
Yeah, it's
We
visible.
can.
We can.
you can read the this thing also, right? I mean, the font. I mean, should I increase it?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, it's visible.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. While. All right. Yeah. Sorry. Mhm. Okay, so what do you guys think the output of this code will be?
So nothing.
Mm.
Oh, perfect, perfect. So let us try that out. Now everybody can see it, right? So I'm trying to execute it and it says, oh my god, I'm not able to execute, I'm not able to get an output. So why was that? Why was that? Let's just go back. See, while is an entry control loop. So when I have a false value at the start, it has nothing to execute at the start. So it says while false. So let me just skip out of this and go to the next. Now let me just change this a bit. Instead of for while loop, I'll use a do while loop. Now, what do you guys think will the execution of this?
There'll be hey once.
Perfect. Let's just try it out. Yeah. So that is the basic difference between a while and do while, guys. So a do while will at least execute once, even if the condition is false, right? While will only execute only if the condition is true. Now I'll just add something else, right? While. What do you think this will do? I'll just change this a bit. What do you think this will do?
It'll print hello world.
How many times?
Sir, endless amount of.
In infinite amount of times.
Perfect, perfect. Now we'll just run it and probably we can see, right? It goes an infinite amount of times because this was a problem. How do you close it? Oh. Okay, I think this should be fine because I'm not very familiar with the BlueJ environment, but probably that closed the code, right? Let's just hope it did. Yeah. Anyway, so coming to the next. So now you guys understood what is the basic difference between while and do while, right? So
Yeah.
while is an entry control loop and do while is an exit control loop. So I would say as a general rule of thumb, like if you know you're doing the while condition, always stick with it. Okay, so here, right, there is a small error. I'll just correct it if I can. So when you specify while, right? Oh, why am I not able to edit it? Okay, I'll just open the code for you guys to show it. So right, when you do the do while loop, always remember that once you specify the condition, there has to be a semicolon, right? This is the difference. In while there will be no semicolon, but when you write a do while loop, right, at the end of while there has to be a semicolon, right? So you guys understand those two differences are there. A do while will at least execute once, and at the end of a do while statement there is a semicolon, right? So
If
those are
you're
the
only writing while, there won't be a semicolon.
yeah. While only writing while, there will be something like this while. Yeah, so this is the syntax for while and this is the syntax for do while. So you see a semicolon here at the end of do while, but there is no semicolon at the end of while.
Yeah, okay.
So those are the differences, right? And any other statement, if also there is no if or nothing else, there is a semicolon. Only for a do while, this thing is a special statement, right? So I'll tell you why also. See, just remember because this starts with a do statement, right? So this has to be terminated, this do statement. While does not have to be terminated when it's by itself. So whenever you start with the do, you have to terminate. That's all. That is the rule of thumb there. So now
Yeah.
let's look at the next bit. Hopefully you guys have understood that concept. Do while. Any doubts, guys, in a do while statement?
No.
Nope.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Okay, now we formally start with. So those are the things that we did yesterday, right? So now we formally start with a new a decision statement, right? Nested if statements. What do you think nested if statements could mean?
Like an if like there'll be one if statement inside of an if statement. If
Right.
like
So when do you think we can use a nested if statement?
so like to get the like suppose we can use it for getting all the even numbers from 1 to 50 or something.
No, not quite. Give me a real world example. Like, see, I'll tell you, whenever you use an if statement, right, you get a yes or no now answer, right? So I'll just try to convert it to a real world problem. Let's say Guys, I think I'm going to use an example about drinking, right? I don't think anybody has a problem. So let's say if there's this cop, right? He catches this guy going on his vehicle on the road. So he'll ask him first, do you have a passport, right? The guy will answer yes. I mean, not passport, sorry, driver's license, right? Yes or no. And then after that, he'll also ask him if are you drunk, right? And that's yes or no, right? So those two statements, first he'll go ask him, do you have a license? If that guy says yes, then the cop will still ask him, are you drunk or not, right? So as you saw, right, first there's an if statement around it, and inside he asks the next question. So what happens if as soon as the cop goes to him and says, do you have a driver's license, and the guy responds no? Do you think he will ask, are you drunk?
No.
No, because he's already not eligible to drive, right? But now, if I go and ask him, do you have a driver's license? And that guy responds yes. So what is then will the cop further question him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he'll go with the next question. So here, no, I just want you guys to relate it to this example, right? So the cop will go to this driver and ask him if if you have a driver's license. So if the condition is true, it'll come inside the nested if statement. If if you are drunk or not, right? So something like that. So this is the case. That is when one statement is nested inside another statement, right? So that is where you use nested ifs. Now, let's just look at the formal definition. When an if statement is placed within another if statement, it is known as a nested if statement. A nested if is used when you have to check for a combination of conditions, right? We had a combination of conditions in that example, and we use a nested if statement to check how many statements are true, and only if the outer statement is true, the inner statement gets executed, right? You guys understood? Any doubts regarding that, guy?
No. Like if the outer statement is false, then the inner would execute.
Yeah, perfect. That's a good understanding, right? If the outer state, see, an if condition, the execution of the code will only go inside an if condition if this condition becomes true. So let me say I come here, and if this condition is automatically false, it won't execute the inner if statement itself. So that is the concept of nesting. You have a lot of if statements. At one point, this turns into no, and the execution doesn't continue from there, right? As long as the conditions are true, it keeps going down the nest. Any other doubts? I hope you got it.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Any other doubts, please?
No.
Yeah. Perfect.
No.
Okay, let's move on to the next thing. Switch statements, right? Switch are also a set of decision-making statements, right? So when do you think? Have you guys? I'll just go to the example first. Let's look at the examples, right? In restaurants, right? When you go to a restaurant, and look at a menu. Right? There are a lot of food items, and you have to either choose like one of them, right? So that is an example where you have a lot of like similar options to you. They're all food items, and you have to choose one of them. So can you tell me what is there in supermarkets like that? There are a lot of what?
Like a lot of like food, vegetables,
And they're all similar, right?
drink.
They're all products in some sense.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
have to pick one of them, right? I mean, like you can continue picking things, but the first time you pick one, right? So something like that. And let's say Netflix. What do you think? A switch type of scenario comes in Netflix, where you pick one of many. What are you picking there?
Like the different shows.
Movies, shows,
Yeah.
and all.
Among all the movies available, you try to pick one movie, right? So can you think of some more examples where out of many options that you are picking one option?
So clothes.
Clothes, perfect. See now, right? When we keep discussing about this, right, we understand one specific concept here. We are always making a decision among related items. When you go to Netflix, right, you pick one show out of many shows, right? You're not picking one show out of like there is something else going on. There's no you're not buying clothes or something on Netflix. You just have a lot of movies, and one movie you're picking to watch in that. And when you go to a supermarket, you're buying one product out of many products. The same thing is in restaurant also.
A restaurant, yes.
You pick one food item out of many food items. So that is where switch statements are used, right? A switch statement is used when you want to execute a condition based on like one variable, right? And that variable can have many values, and based on one value of that variable, you execute a statement, right? And that might sound very confusing to you guys at first, but we'll just implement it in code and see it later. But let's look at the formal definition. The switch statement is a multi-way branch statement. It allows the user to execute one block of code from multiple blocks based on a certain matching condition. So, can you relate one block of code in the supermarket example? One block of code from multiple blocks based on a certain matching condition. How could that be related to a supermarket example?
So the cost of certain products.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thought process. Like, you go to a supermarket and you have a budget, right? Let's say I have 150 rupees. I want to go to the supermarket and buy a cloth worth 150 rupees. I don't want to buy 70 rupees because I have 150, and if I think if I buy 70 rupees cloth, that's an inferior quality product, and above 150 I can't afford, right? So I have multiple possibilities, and I go pick the matching condition is there that cloth should be worth 150 rupees, right? So among all the clothes, I execute one statement, like I go by one cloth, right? So that is where switch comes in. So variables used in a switch statement can only be a string enum. Okay, enum is an enumerated data type that is quite advanced, and it's not important for us to understand right now. A byte, again, a data type, short, int, or character. And then mostly you guys will stick to using integers or characters, right? So right now, let us just model this example into code and check, right, how we can go about it. So the activity right now, we try to model this restaurant example, right? Let's use the switch statement to create a sample menu for a restaurant, right? So let me just create a new class, restaurant. Yeah. You guys know input statements, right? At least the basics of it.
Yeah, yeah.
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 Yeah, perfect, perfect. That's perfect. Now, okay, so when you go to a menu or restaurant, right, the waiter gives you a certain menu. So that is what we try to implement here, right? So we need to display to the user a certain number of food items, right? So let's see how we do that. System.out.println. So we'll see the menu. Okay. So can you guys give me an example of some food item that would be on a menu?
Like masala dosa.
Masala dosa, right? Masala dosa. Second example, guys.
So it's pasta.
Pasta, right? Third one, let's say coffee, right? Coffee would be. I mean, I know a lot of you people drink coffee, but I like coffee, so I'll just add that there, right? So this is our menu, right? We've gone into the restaurant, and this is basically, right, whenever you're giving the user some output, right? You're printing something to the user, expecting an input. That's called prompting the user. Prompting the user or customer, right? We are a restaurant business, we call them customers. So we are prompting the customers. So right now, right, we can either take the input from the user as 1, 2, or 3, or we can take it as coffee, masala dosa, and pasta, right? Because switch statements works with both. For now, for the case of simplicity, we just take it as 1, 2, or 3, right? 1 for masala dosa, 2 for pasta, 3 for coffee, right? So switch. Oh, sorry. Okay, before that, we have to take the input from the user, right? So int choice is equal to sn dot next int. So here, right, what we're doing is we are taking the input, right? I'm sure you guys are familiar with this syntax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so switch. Okay, now, right, a switch statement takes in a variable, right? And the difference between if, else, if, and all that stuff, if, else, if, while they all work based on a true or false condition. Those are Boolean values, right? In Java, you have a lot of data types, and Boolean values are true and false values. So, but switch statements, right? As we saw, they work on integers, characters, and for now, we just say integers, characters, and strings. That's what they work on, right? So we have switch, right? We put the choice in, and we open closing brackets, right? So we say case. This again is a keyword. So case 1. So when I say if the choice value is 1, execute the following statement: system dot out dot println. Thank thanks for choosing masala dosa. Choosing dosa. Right. Just having a bit of OCD here. Yeah. Okay, right now I'll just do it this way, and there will become a certain problem, right? When we do this way, and I'll explain that problem afterwards. You guys understood this much, right? When I say case 1, that means when the value of choice is 1, this statement will execute. And if case is 2, this statement will execute. But case 3, this statement will execute. But there will come a problem in the future. For now, you just think this much. When case is 2, the corresponding statement will execute.
Yes, sir.
Copy, right? So, okay, now you guys seen this, right? If menu, if he chooses 1, he needs masala dosa. He chooses 2, he needs pasta. If he chooses 3, he needs coffee, right? So just compile it to make sure we have made no errors, and let's run it, right? Menu, and it says masala dosa, pasta, and coffee. Let's say I want coffee first. So I put 3 in. Thanks for choosing coffee. Wow, we've had a coffee. But now let me do something else and show you guys, right? I have my menu again, right? And I put 1. Okay, it says, thanks for choosing masala dosa, thanks for choosing pasta, thanks for choosing coffee. You're like, wait a second, we didn't choose all this. Who chose this for us, right? I only wanted masala dosa. So what do you think could be the problem here, guys? So when I look at the code, right, what switch statement usually does, right? It executes the first case that becomes true, and then it tries to execute all of the following cases too. So that is why when I chose masala dosa, it showed me thanks for choosing masala dosa, thanks for choosing pasta, thanks for choosing coffee. Now what happens if I clear this? Okay, sorry. Okay, okay, the menu is not visible, but if I enter 2, right, that was the option for pasta. So what do you think the output will be there? Just look at the code and tell me.
There will be both pasta as well as thanks for choosing coffee also.
Perfect, perfect. Let's just try that out. Yeah, so it says thanks for choosing pasta, and then thanks for choosing coffee. Now, why did it do that? It came into the choice, switch choice, and it went to the first case. Is choice equal to 1? No, it was not 1. So it went to the second choice. So case 2, it's like, yeah, perfect. It matches system.out.println. Thanks for choosing pasta. But it also executed the third statement, right? When the case was 3, because it came below the second case. So that's why in switch, right, it's called this sort of phenomenon, it's called a fall through, and in some cases we would need a fall through type of scenario, but here we don't need it. So we add a break statement, right? Break. Now what do you guys know what a break statement is?
Yeah, like it prevents the fall through of program. Like it terminates the iteration of the loop and goes back to the beginning.
Perfect. See here, right? When I say break, right, it jumps the execution out of this block. The parent block is switch block here. When I say break, it jumps the execution out of the parent block, right, immediately. So break statement is quite often used in. It's actually known as an unconditional control statement, right? Because there's no condition specified with it, but it actually changes the execution style of the program, right? So now let's just execute this program again and see. Compile. Void main. Okay, so we have a menu again. Now let me enter one masala dosa. So now it says thanks for choosing masala dosa. Now that we've solved that problem. But now let's see, are we done yet? Have we built a good system yet? Now I enter 4. Wait. I told 4.
So we need to add a product like 4, the fourth product. There are only 3 products there.
Perfect. Right? We can either add a product, or let's say our restaurant has only 3 options, right? We are like just starting out, we don't have any food items and stuff. So I can't add the 4th product. So what will I do? I would add something called a default statement. Now, what do you think a default could do?
Like suppose if someone puts 4, like the statement would say like fourth product is not available, or like there's no.
So a default statement is used when the choice they input is not available in any of our cases. right? So that time we'll, right? We don't have that product system dot out dot println. Okay, we don't have, oh, sorry.
So is the default statement compulsory in every like switch case program?
It's not compulsory. See, like, I mean, the program we executed twice or thrice even before the default statement. But default is just used to capture those scenarios where our cases don't cover for that, right? See, when I entered 4, I had no sort of output from the system whatsoever.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not necessary, but it's always good practice to write a default statement, right? So let's see how it works out. So let me try executing.
Sir, but why would someone choose the fourth option if it's not there?
See, that's a great question. Who asked this?
Option.
Akshan, I'll tell you this, right? So when you actually tell the user some things that they have to do, and I can assure you, like in 95% of in the real world scenario, right, they'll always ask something that's outside, or they'll try to input something that's not specified in the conditions. Right? Have you seen, right? Like some people go to the restaurant, they'll be like, oh, why don't you have rava dosa? Oh, why don't you have this, that? So usually, right, there are times when users give inputs that are not encapsulated in a menu. So we would want to tell, like, if they tell something like maybe we can be rude and tell, hey, don't come to my restaurant again. But we can also be nice and tell, hey, see, this only we have only 3 things on the menu. So those are the times where default statements will be used. Right? And, or it can even be sometimes a typo, right? I was going to type 3 and I typed 4 by mistake. Things like that. So we just need some condition to capture those sort of cases, right?
Okay, so sir, and I had one more doubt. So suppose if I want to buy like two things, like suppose pasta and coffee. So then how will I do that in one order, not separate?
Okay, so there, right, again, a sense of iterative statements comes in, right? So you have to write while on, then after every statement, you have to count and have your orders finished or something, right? We'll try that for sure. Okay, so when I see right here, when I enter the choice file, this is A, we don't have a problem. Now coming to the actions question, right? So now let's try to implement that. We are going to build a system where more orders can be input, right? Orders. Okay, still ordering. True, right? Still while still ordering. Okay, now let me take the whole switch statement and put it here, right? Okay, now when I do this, okay, again here there is a certain problem when I use sn.nextIn. Maybe it's not integer. Wait, 1 second.
Sir, in .NET.
Yeah, oh, what are you saying? Bro?
We can hear.
No, sir, you can. Yes.
Oh, yeah. So, right, what we wanted is we wanted to take in as many orders as possible. See, right now, I have not just defined the break statement, right? I mean, like, when do I stop ordering? Just for the sake of time. I'll tell you how to do it also after we show this. So, let's see, compile. Okay, and let's try running it, void main. So now it shows me the menu, right? Masala dosa menu, and I take 1. Thanks for choosing masala dosa. Then I take 3. Thanks for choosing coffee. Then I take 2. So you can keep going on like that. But right here, right, it doesn't actually terminate. Like, when do I stop ordering? I essentially don't stop ordering in this program. But that is how you would use an iterative statement to keep taking repeated order, right? So I have this still ordering variable, which is true, and as long as it's true, we'll keep taking orders, right? So that's how you do it. And wait, just for the sake of clarity, this should be converted into integer dot constant. You guys don't have to worry too much about this one, right? This is just something, an error that throws up usually because see input strings. Wait, maybe I can explain that. Right. So here, right? What do you think happens when I used to guess and load? You guys are familiar with sn dot next and sn dot next line, right?
I've heard it, but I forgot what it does.
Okay. So what sn dot next line does, it takes the input until the end of the line from the current point of the cursor. Right, sn dot next in will only take the next available integer and stop the cursor wherever the integer ends, right? So let me show you this example. It says test, right? I just want to read the code out first. So system.out.println, enter a number, then we enter a number. Then system.out.println, enter your name, then we enter the name, and then we try printing out the name. So first let's try this sort of thing, right? Compile. Oh shit. Sorry about that. Okay, what should I do with this? Compile, yeah. Okay, so enter a number 23. Okay, right now see, I entered 23 and the execution just stopped, continued by itself, and it gave me name value of null. Why do you think this could be a problem? Where do you think the problem is here?
So like, should they?
Okay, so I think that was a bad question from my side because you guys are just learning what next input. So when I give an input like 12, right? What does next int do is it just starts reading from this side and it sees where the next available integer is there. Okay, next available integer is at 12, and it stops reading here. Now, has the reading of the whole line stopped? Like, has the cursor reached the end of the line in this example?
Hasn't reached.
Perfect, right? It hasn't reached. Now, the difference between sn.nexted and sn.nextLine is, first thing, sn.next line reads everything as a string. But one good thing that sn.nextLine does, right? It reads until the end of that line, and then it shifts the input stream to the next line. So if you're using something like sn.nextInt, right? In our example, first we went and read 12 and we were very happy with that. Now we're trying to read the name, but what's happening is this, because the cursor hasn't still reached the end of the line, it still tries. Oh, wait a second, there is this beautiful empty line that I can still pick up. So it picks it up and it's showing me a null name, right? So just to counteract that problem, what we do is integer. You guys know what integer.parseInt is?
So I don't know.
No,
Okay.
sir.
So integer.parseInt, right? It converts a string value to an integer value if that string is able to be converted into a string, I mean integer value. So something like Vaishnav can't be automatically converted to an integer value, right? But a number like 1040 or something like that can be converted to an integer. So integer.parseInt takes care of that process. All right. So you have, I think character.parseChar is also there, things like that, right? So just the key takeaways here are what is the difference between sn.nextInt and sn.nextLine, guys, that I told?
So like the sn.next line will keep going until the whole line is filled, and the cursor will stop in the beginning of the next line, and next int will stop as soon as the next integer comes.
Yeah, it'll stop as soon as it finishes reading the next int.
Yeah, like as soon as we satisfy the condition, it will stop.
Yeah, perfect. Now let me try to execute this code. Now I just replace sn.nextInt with integer.parseInt sn.next. So now when I try compile, oh shit, compile, where is the error? Errors found in class. What can this be? Next. Errors found in class. I'm really not sure where the error is coming. Scanner.
So is it that one in the end?
Oh, Oh my god, that's actually a beautiful spot. I'm really sorry, guys. Totally missed it. Yeah, integer dot pass. Dot next line. Yeah. So yeah. So now we have I've converted that from an sn dot next into an sn dot next line. Let's see the difference, right? There we as soon as I enter the number, see it showed it didn't read the name. Now let's see. Enter a number 12. Enter a name Akshan. Let's see. Right. So now it reads the name. So that was the difference, guys, between sn dot next int and sn dot next line. Now coming back to our restaurant example, right? So what were we trying to do in our restaurant example is as soon as the user enters some value, we have to allow him to exit the loop, right? So system dot out dot println. Do you want to stop ordering? Enter int stop choice.
So we can even put if else over there.
What happened?
So can we put if else also?
Yeah, we can, definitely can. So I'll do that if stop choice is equal to 0, break, else, sorry, is equal to 0, else system dot continue ordering, right? So out of this with system dot out dot println. Thanks for eating at a restaurant. Thanks for eating at a restaurant. Right? Okay, now let's try executing this program, guys. Let's just see what it does. So void main. So okay, it gives me the menu again. I take pasta. Okay, so do I want to stop ordering? Enter 0. No, I want to continue ordering, so I'll enter 1. So continue ordering. Okay, now I also want coffee, right? So do you want, okay, so we have thanks for choosing pasta and thanks for choosing coffee. Do you want to stop ordering? Yes, I want to stop ordering. I enter 0. So thanks for eating at a restaurant. So that is how Akshan you repeatedly take more orders, right? So remember, whenever we use, when you want to repeatedly do an action, that's the key word there. Repeated means you have to use an iterative statement. So while still ordering, then we can do this, and once it reaches the condition, we give tell the user, do you want to stop ordering? If he tells yes, then we break out of that loop, right? So that is how you take multiple orders. So I hope
Yes.
usage of this switch statement is clear to all of you guys. When does your class usually end, guys?
3.
Okay, at 3. Okay, we have 20 minutes more. Or do you guys have any doubts that you want to clear, or do you want me to go to the next topic? Like, I feel it's a lot for a day, so that's why I'm hesitant. But please do tell me, guys.
So like I have a doubt in in this particular program, what is that int choice is equal to integer dot pass int, like that statement doing in this
Okay,
program?
what does this do? You remember that we wanted the orders, right? For choice 1, choice 2, choice 3.
Yeah.
So that is why I need to enter the choice from the user, right? From the menu.
Okay, so that's asking to enter the choice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I enter 1, the choice value will be 1, and it says thanks for choosing masala dosa, right? Things like that.
Okay.
Anything else, guys? Anything else?
So, could you please explain the difference between next int and next line once again? I didn't understand clearly.
Perfect. We'll do that. Okay. So, wait. Oh, sorry. On that. I didn't do that. Okay. So let's just look at this example at first, and let's try reading this like this. Sn dot next. Okay. Let me just tell a general thing. You guys know, right? All of the data that is being read by a system, it always comes through like a stream into the system, right? So when you're reading words from a book, how do you read? You join the letters together one by one from left to right. You go like in a stream fashion, right? So similarly, all the input that comes into a system comes in a stream fashion, right? So something like this. When I'm entering something like this, right? So this is a stream of characters starting from left to right. Okay, and always there is a cursor that specifies until what character the until what line and what column the characters have been entered, right? So that is how a stream works. Now when I enter some input like okay, so what do you think the result of sn dot next int right here will give? What does sn dot next int? I'll tell you what it does. It reads the next possible integer until a white space. So where do you think it'll stop? What do you think if I look guys?
Sir, at 1, because the next integer stops there till the space.
Oh, sorry. I'm starting the cursor right here, and when I say sn dot next int, right? So what number will be returned?
214.
214. Perfect. So let's just save. Sorry. That system dot enter a number. Next. System dot out dot enter number enter was plus num, right? Okay. Now let us compile this and test this code out. Void main, right? Enter a number. So let me say I enter a number like this. Right? What do you think the output will be?
So is it given like sn dot next int?
Yeah.
So the 21414.
Yeah. Let's just try it out. The number entered was 21414. Can anyone explain me why only 21414 was considered?
Because it's sn dot next int, so it just stops in the first integer. As soon as like the first integer gets over, it stops there. If we put sn dot next line, then it would have printed the whole line, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So let's just try that out. And one thing you guys should also understand, guys, sn dot next line reads a string. It doesn't read an integer. So I'll just show you why. If I change this to sn dot next line, this will throw an error. So why do you think this error is there? It's telling, oh bro, I can't do sn dot next line. I can't assign into num value because num is a
So I'm not sure.
okay. Sn dot next line reads what data type?
Oh, so is it like next line only can read string?
Perfect.
And then
So
you can't.
next line, right? Next line is a function that returns a string value, right? But here we have number as an integer. So it's saying, bro, you're trying to give me a string, but I'm an integer. How can I hold a string value, right? So that is why it doesn't allow me to assign it. So what should I change this to so this code works?
So string num.
Perfect. Both of you are right. So string num. So now let's execute this code. Right now it's next line. Right. I just want you guys to remember that. So now compile void main. Okay. Enter a number. Now what do you think the output of this will be?
Like that whole line will be there. It'll print the whole line.
Everything which you entered.
Perfect, guys. Perfect. The number entered was this, and it goes until the end of the line. So that is the basic difference, guys, between next int and next line. Next line reads strings, and next int reads integers. Now, sometimes, right, I want the cursor to move to the end of the line, but while also reading the integer specified. So what I'll do then is int num. Now Now this will throw me an error. Now there is another way, right? I can convert this string to an integer before assigning it to a string, right? So we used a method before this to convert that string to an integer. Can anybody remember that method?
To convert the string to the integer.
Yeah.
So should we put like that integer parse in?
Perfect, perfect. That is the right code we had for the integer dot parse int. Now, now let's see. Now I go compile void main. Now enter a number. So I just enter 414. This should be fine, right? The number entered was 21441421, right? Because that was the number I entered. Now let me try entering something else. Okay, now why was there an error? Number format in exception for input string 4214214, this one, right, with spaces I've added, and I tried reading it as a next line, and I tried converting it to an integer. So where do you think, why doesn't integer dot parse int work for a number like this?
Is it because like there's space between both of the
Perfect,
numbers?
perfect, perfect. Because see, whenever you're trying to use integer or parsing, right? I told you guys that string no should be convertible to a integer. But if it is not convertible to an integer and has spaces in between, it will throw a number format exception. That means this number is not in the right format for me to access or manipulate it. So that's what the computer is telling. So that is the basic difference, guys. You understood it? Next int reads the next possible integer. Next line reads until the end of the line. But whenever you use next line, right, you have to, and converting it using integer or parser, you always have to make sure that that number will only be a number and it won't contain spaces or commas or letters, anything. So, guys, I think everybody understood the difference. If you guys still have a doubt, I'll go through it again. No issue.
I am for me it's clear.
Yeah. Anybody else?
No, sir.
No, bro.
Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. Do you want me to go to the next topic called for statements?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. So now we are moving to the. Okay, I'll just introduce it for today. I think we're running short of time. We have 10 minutes or something. So let's just try to introduce ourselves with the for statement. So for is a type of. Is it a conditional statement or an iterative statement?
Iterative.
Yeah. So again, you guys know some basic examples, right? So iterative statements, right? So let us say like Akshan, tell me the numbers from 1 to 10. So how would Akshan go about this process?
So like I could say it serial wise or mixed it. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I might say 9 before 8 like that.
Okay. So okay, you can definitely do that. That's a nice thought process. But where does he start? When I say tell numbers from 1 to 10 in order, what is the first starting point?
So
So
1.
Right.
One.
So that is the initialization concept there, right? He's initializing the starting value to some number. Now, what do you think the condition there is? I'm telling you, do tell numbers from 1 to 10. So when do you think he will stop saying numbers?
So when he reaches 10.
when the number is less than 10.
As long as the number is less than 10, he will keep executing, right?
So less than equal to 10.
Yeah, less than equal to 10. Perfect, perfect. So as long as the number is less than equal to 10, he will keep telling the numbers. Now, what is the increment there?
So 1.
Yeah, perfect. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that is how a for loop works. Right? A for block has three set of statements. One is initialization. Okay, again here there is an error that I feel that has to be corrected. Okay, in the for loop, right, you put semicolons inside the blocks, not commas.
Okay.
Right, because these are all statements. This is an initialization statement, this is a condition statement, and increment statement, right? So in the few, like there was a typo on that, but just remember it's always semicolons and not commas, right? So initialization, condition, and increment. Let's read the formal definition. A for block is a control flow statement. Okay, control flow. Why is it called a control flow statement?
Control flow, because again we're going like step by step process, like from the beginning to the end.
Oh no, that is a sequential process.
Oh yeah,
How does
control.
how does a for loop control the flow? In what way can it change the flow of program?
Sir, it tells from where it starts and where it ends.
Yeah. I can tell you another way, guys. It's called a control flow. Like let's say like this pen, right? You guys can see this pen.
Yeah.
Okay. So if
Yeah.
this pen is moving like this, right? It is a sequential flow of the pen. Like it's not stopping anywhere. Okay. But now let's say there's a for loop somewhere in the middle. So it is moving, and it starts looping over here. And loops 3 times, and it moves back. So did the for loop in the middle change the flow of the pen?
Yeah, that change.
So that is why it is a control. It is controlling the flow of the pen. So it is known as a control flow statement, right? So it is a control flow statement that is used to execute the block code multiple times. See, the pen is coming here and it starts like rotating until it reaches a function and moves on. So it consists of 3 parts: initialization, condition, and increment. I think that you guys understood, right? Initialization, increment.
Yeah.
So let's just look at it formally once again. The parts of a loop. So all loops have 3 parts, right? The first part is the initialization, second part is the condition, and third part is the increment part. Okay. So here, right, int I is equal to 0. We are initializing the first starting value to 0. And I less than 10. So as long as the value of I is not greater than 10, greater than or equal to 10, you keep continuing this process. Then I plus plus increment. So let's just write a sample program using the for loop. New class for. Right. Sorry about that. Okay, let's write a program to print all the even numbers from 1 to 100, right? And I want you guys to guide me through this process. So what will be my first statement here? Will it be okay, I'll tell you for, okay? I want to print all this even numbers from 1 to 100. So what should be the first step?
I is equal to 1.
Perfect. I is equal to 1. Second step?
I is less than or equal to
I is
100.
less than or equal to 100.
Yeah. Third step?
I plus plus.
I plus plus. Perfect, guys. You know, it took me years to get this level of understanding, and you guys, like, what, in 5 minutes, you already understood this, right? Now, what is the condition for an even number?
If I
So A modulus 2 is equal to 0.
If I mod by 2 is equal to 0, then what should I do?
It's
So
even.
Even number.
println I.
So this is system.out.println, it's an even number.
Yeah, like right now we're just printing a series of all the even numbers, so let's just print out the number itself, right? So let's compile it.
Yeah, okay.
And let's see what I mean. Okay, now you guys can see here, right? This was an error from the previous execution, the number format one. So just look at the output, right? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and so on and so forth until we reach 100. So that is how we use a for loop, right? Any doubt as to how? Any doubt as to regarding today's class or anything else?
No.
No, sir.
Okay, perfect. So I think now we don't have the time, right? So we'll actually, I thought of actually having another activity where we model a voters registration program using the for loop and nested if statement. The person can only register if he's an Indian citizen and above 18 years of age, right? So let's do that in the next class, and I hope you guys understood everything. And do you guys have any doubts? Can you just like go through and tell me, like, do you guys have any doubts regarding control statements? What control statements are? Can anybody explain me what a control statement is? What is a control?
Like they are the statements that control the flow of the program.
Perfect. Conditional statements. If okay, so we have the if else statement, right? If else statement, the condition should be what? What sort of value do if else statements work on? The condition.
So if
Like yes or no or something.
Boolean value true and false.
Perfect. Yes or no, or Boolean values or true and false. Okay, then if else if ladder. When do you use an if else if ladder?
When there are
First
multiple answers to the question asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have something like grades, right? So you have to fall through this ladder and check like the corresponding grades, right? Correct. Nested if else statements. When are they used? To give you an example as well.
Nested if
An if statement inside an if statement.
Perfect, perfect. Right? When one question can have a yes or no value, and based on the yes or no value of the question, you will have a second and third and fourth and fifth question. Right? So things like that. Then switch statement. When is a switch statement used?
when there's like a choice, when we have to pick one out of the
One out of many.
other
One out of many.
one out of many.
What
Yeah.
is the relation between all those many things? They all have to be
Like one specific item.
Like related, like vegetables means like one vegetable out of other vegetables.
perfect, perfect. Yeah, that's correct. Now looping statements, while loop, right? While also works on what sort of conditions?
Do while.
No, no. While the
the
condition should
Boolean.
Boolean. Perfect, perfect answer. While works on Boolean values. Now, what is the difference between a while and do while? While is what
The
control?
one is entry controlled and the other one is exit controlled.
Perfect, perfect. That's the right answer. Entry control and exit control. So when the condition is false, while loop will execute how many times?
It will not execute itself if the condition is false.
Perfect answer. And do while loop will execute how many times?
One time.
So on.
Perfect. Now for loop we saw it as the end part. Again, what are the three parts of a for loop?
First, we have to initialization.
Condition and increment.
Perfect, guys. So that amazing. All of you have understood. Like I took like 6-8 months to understand, right? Sitting in class, what these things have meant. And yeah, so I hope that everybody's maybe notes of what was happening in today's class.
Yeah.
Yeah, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just do the basic minimal, okay? If you're not able to, like, I know some people, right? They want like they like concentrating in class and then listening. They don't like to write much. Some people just hear and they sit somewhere else and work on something else and then try to understand. So there are learning styles, but for me, I would suggest that you guys at least maintain a log of what you guys are like learning and understanding. Right? And it doesn't have to be something very wordy like exact things that I'm telling or what's in the slides and stuff like that. Yeah. And one more thing that I just wanted to cover is the general structure of loop, right? For every single loop, right, there are three parts. The loop variable initialization, the condition statement, and the loop variable update. So what was the specialty about the for loop there? Hello?
Yes, so for loop has like both initialization and
So
Sir,
the
everything is
increment.
in the same line.
perfect, perfect. That's a great answer. When you look at the for loop, right, everything is beautifully contained in the first line itself. But when you use something like while statement, right, you have to initialize the variable somewhere else and have the condition somewhere else and the loop update variable comes somewhere else, right? So that is what the for loop, the advantage of using a for loop is over using while loops and stuff like that. But it depends, right, on the how what style you use it in. Like one example we had, right, for a restaurant. Have I deleted it? Sorry. Yeah. When you saw here, right, I have this while loop while still ordering is true. So it makes more sense in some cases to use while and some cases to use for. But generally, mostly you use for loop, right, for your workings and stuff like that. So that is what I wanted to cover. I think everything has been covered. This activity we'll do it in the first 10 minutes of the next session. But yeah, guys. So that was it. Any other doubts, guys?
So like in a nested loop, can we only put one if statement inside inside an if statement?
Oh no, bro. You can put as many as you want. So something like this, right? It can be so as many and else if also you can have somewhere else if. So things like that. You can put as many if statements and else if statements as you want inside a block, right? Depending on your usage. And there will be situations where like there is a parent if and inside the parent block there is a lot of if else statements like that. Right? You can have 100 ifs, else, many if and else if chains. Anything else, guys?
No, bro.
No, bro.
Hmm.
Yeah, perfect, guys. So, everybody, thanks for joining in, and that was all for today's class. And I would like to reiterate, coding is for everyone. Keep learning and keep having fun. And hope you are enjoying this experience and you're finding it valuable.